Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the August Leadership Institute 2019. Woo. My name is Evelyn Reyes, and I'm a member of the Boston Student Advisory Council. I'm a rising senior at the John D. O'Brien and the student representative on the Boston School Committee. Yeah! This room is full of advocates for quality education. Though each of us may operate on different levels, we share a passion for delivering to every student the education they deserve. The Boston Student Advisory Council, a program administered by Boston Public Schools and Youth on Board, works on ensuring that students have a voice in their own educational experience and at every table that influences what that experience will be. This spans from being able to give feedback to their teachers, to lobbying in both city and state legislative arenas. A strong ally of ours is Mayor Marty Walsh. Through actions such as standing up for immigrant rights in our schools and our city, and ensuring that students have a voice in the hiring of our new superintendent, Mayor Marty Walsh shows that he is a strong ally. He uplifts the voice of young people all across the city, and using his capacity as mayor, works alongside us in the fight to build a stronger school system. Everybody, I give you Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you. I want to thank Evelyn for not just the introduction she did today, but for the incredible work she did as a John D. O'Brien student. Congratulations, and thank you for your support on the search committee. And next to you is Elvis. I know Elvis spoke earlier, who is a rising senior at Stoughton and wants to go to Northeast University. So I just want to thank both of you, because you are the future of our city, and thank you for the incredible stuff that you do. So thank you. To the BPS summer band that was here, they were amazing. I blew that horn, it was awful, so I didn't want to ruin the music today, but they were absolutely incredible, and I want to thank them as well, the young people we have in our school system. To our new superintendent, welcome. I don't think I've met anyone that's been more excited than Brenda has been. Every time I talk to her, she is so full of energy and wants to tackle the whole world, and I want to welcome you here to Boston. So thank you for being here with us. To all the school leaders that are here, everyone in this room, you're a leader. You're a leader in your school, you're a leader in the central office, you're a leader in the area that you work in. I want to thank you for the incredible work that you do. I have a prepared speech here today, and I think I've spoken at this several times, and to be quite honest with you, I'm just coming by to offer words of encouragement today and support. Over the last 5 years, I've been mayor of Boston, and we've made some gains, and whether they're acknowledged by the media, whether they're acknowledged by people, we've made some incredible gains. And when I say we, I haven't, you have. You have, those of you that have been working for the district for a long time. We've seen schools turn around. I've had the chance to visit every single school since I've been mayor, some of you 2 and 3 and 4 times, some of you once, and I'm going to be working with the superintendent to get back out to visit the schools. But the point of it is, when I go to a school, regardless of what the school is or regardless of what your rating is, to me there's something good going on in that school. I see a teacher doing something special. I see a leader of that school doing something incredible. I see the principal of that school loving that school. I see a parent helping out. I see the custodian doing something. I see somebody planting something in the front yard, the backyard. I see something in every single school. And my job as mayor is to support and be a cheerleader to some degree of all of our schools and to talk about the good things. Because it's very rarely when we pick up the paper and we read such and such a great thing happened at a school today. It's always a gotcha story. And I'll tell you, it gets old after a while. It gets old after a while, because I know the work that a lot of you in this room that have been in this district for a long time, a lot longer than I've been mayor, you've been doing it for a long time, and I think you come to an event like this and you feel kind of motivated. You come, well, this is kind of a common occurrence. We come to an event, we listen to people talk, and then maybe we get a little excited, and then when you leave, you get a little fired up, and then around the middle of September, that fire in your belly goes away, and it's kind of like business as usual. That's something that we have to change. I'm going to continue to fight for the Boston Public School System. I'm going to continue to push back on the newspapers and the bad stories and talk about the positive stories. We have to deal. Our job is to deal with the bad stuff that happens on the course of on a daily basis. That's what we do. It's not all perfect. The best school in the United States of America, the best private school in the United States of America, regardless of where that is, I'm not sure who it is, they have problems. They might look good on the outside, and the wallpaper might look nice and clean, and the grades might look great, but they have issues that they have to deal with every day to get to that greatness. Our job, and I think our job, is to make sure that the outcomes for our young people are successful, like Evelyn and Elvis and many other kids that we have. That's our job. When the valedictorian story hit last year, that one hit me hard because I was trying to say, wait a second, that was in 2006 and 2007. I was not the mayor of Boston. The kids that graduated under me, we don't know how they're doing. That was my response initially, and I was thinking to myself, is that the right response? For me personally, I looked in the mirror, I don't think it's the right response, because those are my kids, those are our kids, and we have to do better for them. This Leadership Academy, I'm grateful that you're all here today, because what you're going to do and what you're going to talk about today is going to set the tone moving forward. It is so important for all of us, as we hit the ground running this year, that we work together. This summer, I've had, in the city of Boston, our homicides are down 20% this year in Boston, which is a good thing. But we still have had 29 homicides in the city. That's 29 individuals that lost their life. Our shootings are up 10% in the city of Boston this year. That's the only crime stat that's up. Everything else is down. Our violent crime is down, our property crime is down, our deaths are down, our arrests are down, all that stuff is down. We can celebrate how great we are. We're working on that issue, and when I say I don't mean I, we're working to try and figure out that issue. How do we move forward? The way we solve the problem of poverty, the way we solve and address the issue of racism, the way we work on the issue of homicides and crime, is by giving young people an opportunity to have a strong start in their life. That responsibility is on every single person in this room. You have an opportunity to make a difference in one person's life. Many of you have heard the story already where somebody's come back to you, those of you that work in schools, somebody's come back to you after they've graduated and they thanked you and they gave you credit for their career. They said, you impacted me when you were a teacher at so-and-so school, or when you became an assistant principal, or when you were a nurse or a dean, or whatever the situation was you're working in. Kids came back and said to you, I want to thank you because you set my life and you helped me with my life. Young people look up to all of you in this room. You are the leaders of the Boston Public School System. Brenda and myself and Michael Conto and Jessica and some other folks might be in the newspaper every now and then, every day, talking about the schools, but truly the leaders are sitting in these chairs on this first level and in that second level. And I want to thank you for that, because we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to help young people accomplish and find their dreams, live their dreams. Education is at the heart of it. Education is at the heart of those dreams. I can talk to you about eliminating the opportunity gaps, and that's what we have to do. I'm not downplaying that. I'm not saying that's not important, because that's really important, eliminating the opportunity gaps. But we got to do just more than just talk about it. We have to convince our teams why we have to do that. Our whole city is responsible for helping educate our kids, but you are the front line. This year we allocated in our budget $1.14 billion. Now I hear all the time, well, it's not enough, we need more money, we need this, we need that. We allocated $1.4 billion. That is more than just about any school district in the United States of America. And could we use more? Probably. I could use more money all over the place. We could use another 1,000 police officers. We could use another 500 firefighters. We could use another 1,000 teachers. We could use certainly more trauma counselors. We could use more opportunities in our districts. But what we have to do is we have $1.4 billion that we're going to work together collectively to spend on our kids and make sure that that money goes to the appropriate places. We announced universal pre-kindergarten. The goal is, I'm going to freak everyone out in central office now, the goal is within the next 5 years we're going to institute it. I want it done before 5 years. There's no reason why we don't have it before 5 years. I want our kids, myself and the superintendent were talking the other day about schools, and I said, we're talking about where do you want the school district, and we're going back and forth on it. And all I said was, I want to make sure that when your third graders, which are in kindergarten today, are in third grade, that they're reading at third grade level. That's what I want. I want to make sure that our sixth graders are reading at a sixth grade level. I want to make sure that our kids are prepared to go on to high school. I want to make sure Elvis is prepared to be able to not just get into Northeastern because somebody wrote a letter for him, that he's getting into Northeastern because of the education that he received. Those are the things that we have to do. Universal pre-kindergarten helps the future of our district, so that 15 years from now, when there's a mayor standing on this stage and there's a superintendent, maybe the same one, sitting in the front row, and all of you in this room are sitting here, they look back and say, wow, in 2019, they really drew a line in the sand, and they really made a difference because the kids are reading at high levels. Now we're dealing with the problems that some of these private schools are dealing with. That's what I want to see in our district. My Way Cafe, we're going to be in hopefully 60, PJ promised me 60 schools this year. Fresh food, you know, the teachers, and I mean the principals in this room, you know what My Way Cafe is all about. You know what it's like. You see your kids eat it. I ate at many of the schools, and the broccoli's the best. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see it and to make sure that our kids have a good, healthy start. Why is that important? I was at the David Ellis 2 years ago. And I walked in and I talked to the leader at the time, and she was explaining to me that a little boy, it was a Friday, went over to a barrel and took a half-eaten apple out of the barrel and put in his bag. And she walked up to him and said to him, why did you do that? You know, didn't you eat lunch? And what his answer was, I don't have any food at home. So we have to make sure while these kids are our kids at these when we have them in our schools, that they become our kids and that we not just feed their brain, but feed their bodies as well. And My Way Cafe is going to help us do that. Summer job program, we're in the process of doing summer jobs now. We're doing Boston Saves to save money for the college. We're going to do that. But if we can do all the saving for money for college, if our kids aren't prepared for college, what good is that savings account? We need to make sure as we move forward. Economic mobility is really important, a major important part of our work. We're going to continue to work to advocate our young people and our families from displacement and housing, making sure that they have the benefits. We're going to continue to work on the whole child. We're going to work, when I say we, the administration in City Hall and the administration, the school department, the schools need to work together to make sure that we help all of our families and push the state where we have to push the state to make sure our young people have the supports that they have. Our immigrant population. It is important today more than ever that we take care of our immigrant population. I don't know if anyone saw. I don't know if anyone saw the video of the 11-year-old girl in Mississippi. If you didn't, it was a little girl in Mississippi from Central America, I believe. I think Guatemala, maybe. There was a raid. Her father was arrested at work, and she was crying on the video. And she was talking about who's going to put food on the table. Her dad is gone. And what she said also was, my dad was going to take me school clothes shopping. We have many of those young 11-year-olds in our district. The federal government has not come to take them. We're going to fight to make sure that doesn't happen. But we need to make sure that those young kids that are immigrants are taken care of. We need to make sure that our young kids that don't have food at home, like the little boy a couple years ago at the David Ellis, is taken care of, that we wrap their arms around them. We need to make sure that the little kids from Roxbury and Dorchester, Mattapan and High Park and West Roxbury and Charlestown and Jamaica Plain and Rosendale and Mission Hill and all East Boston and Brighton and all the parts of the city of Boston that those young people need support, we need to make sure we support them. I used to be a Little League coach. And when I coached Little League, I loved it. the parents used to come down. It was down Savin Hill, and the parents would come down the first day, and they'll be standing behind the backstop. And I'd talk to the kids. I'd say, "Okay, guys, listen. This one's and some girls, guys and girls. I want you when you go home. I want you to tell your parents that when they drop you off down the field, you're my kid. They shouldn't be standing behind the bench. They should be sitting in the bleachers over here, and they shouldn't be coming on. They shouldn't be telling us how to coach, and they should be there." And I said that just because they were my kids while they were on that field. In a couple weeks, 56,000, almost 57,000 young people are going to walk into our schools. They're your kids. It's our obligation to make sure that they have the best preparation for the future. I was going to give a rah-rah speech today, but quite honestly, I don't know. I can't get the rah-rah up because this is my 6th time addressing this, all of you. The first year was rah-rah because I was brand new. Second year was rah-rah because we had a new superintendent. Third year was rah-rah because it was the start of the school year. Today it is rah-rah inside my body, but today is serious. Whether you like me or likes people in central office or whether you like anyone, it doesn't matter. You don't have to like me or like my policies. You don't have to like the superintendent or like her policies. But we have one job to do. One job. And that one job is to make sure we put aside our differences and that we work together because we are not the central focus here. They are. I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to stop talking now, and now I get to introduce somebody, a friend of mine who we just went through a contract negotiation with. It was an interesting contract negotiation because generally contract negotiations are fighting each other over quality of life and work conditions and things like that, and that came up. But what the main focus of the contract negotiation was, it was always about the kids. Every time Jessica came in and talked about something, she talked about it's good for the kids. Every single time. It wasn't about this and that, and we got some of that, but not really. And again, as I said a minute ago, we need to work together. We are one school district. That means we are one school district with one administration, one union, one kids, one parents, all of us together. So let's give a nice warm welcome to the president of Boston Teachers Union, Jessica Tang.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really, really honored and excited to be here with you all this morning because we do have so much hope and there's so much newness still. And the newness is not just a new superintendent, a new collaboration, but as the mayor said, a new contract. And a contract that we're really proud of and that we've worked really hard to achieve, which will help bring a nurse in every school, increase staffing for social, emotional, and behavioral health, K-2 paras, increase pay for our basic paras, a significant step towards improving inclusion in the district, and a commitment to increasing wraparound services through hub community schools. And many of these ideas are not just from BTU members, but also school leaders, and students, and parents, and community members. And I hope that you all feel heard as we work together to create the schools all of our students deserve. And over the summer, we've already been working together, particularly on an important piece of legislation at the State House called the Promise Act. How many of you are familiar with the Promise Act? Okay. I think everyone in this room needs to be familiar with the Promise Act. It's legislation that would correct over 25 years of underinvestment in our public schools, K-12, throughout the state. We know through the FBRC, how many of you are familiar with the FBRC? The Foundation Budget Review Commission, that we've been underfunding public education by $1 to $2 billion. And in the latest State House budget that was passed, there was a significant increase in the amount of money for schools and public schools in the state. $268 million. It sounds like a lot of money. But here's what you all need to know and why I'm bringing this up today. Out of that $268 million, BPS is only going to see about $2 to $3 million in addition. That's about $35 to $50 per student. That's it. That is insufficient. The state legislature has promised to get a bill passed and revisit in September, but we need all hands on deck to advocate for a bill that does not leave Boston students behind. I know that politics and political advocacy sometimes makes us educators feel uncomfortable. I got into teaching to teach, not to get into politics. But policies and politics absolutely impact our ability to do our jobs well. They not only impact the resources we have for our students in schools, but they also influence whether or not our students feel safe and protected from gun violence. They influence which of our students and families feel targeted, whether or not undocumented students can afford to go to college or feel safe to come to school at all. And this is where we all have so much in common. The love that we have for our students and families, our belief in values such as joy, unity, community, inclusion, equity. I love that we share those values. So our path forward is always to remember that at this moment in time, when hateful rhetoric, violence, collective trauma, and hurt abound, that we are all here fighting for a common cause, our students and families, and a better society and a more compassionate community. And that compassion has to start with us, as individuals and as leaders. I had the opportunity this summer to hear an incredible presentation from a professor, Mark Brackett, from Yale's University Child Studies Center, and who's the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He has a great book, by the way. I'm giving him a plug. I don't even know the guy, but it's called The Permission to Feel. Check it out. I hope we can get him here actually to speak to you all directly, but one of the big takeaways was that in his studies, successful schools were led by educators with high emotional intelligence. And in school communities where there are high levels of stress, the leaders had lower EI. Same, of course, with teachers. Higher EI, happier students. Lower EI for teachers, the less students felt connected, appreciated, and supported. And of course, higher EI also meant higher performance for students. This is why cell-well work is so important, both physical and mental health, not just for our students, but for the adults who work with them too. As we know, in stressful environments, when under duress or when suffering trauma, we often lose our self-regulation. We often know this as educators in theory, but it is one thing to know, and it is another entirely other skill to be able to know when we are losing it ourselves and have the tools to heal ourselves too. And I've been there. Over the last few months in particular, I've really been forced to reflect and think on this a lot. As many of you, if not most of you know, I had a very traumatic personal experience losing my baby at 7 months a few months ago. It was the most difficult few months of my life. I tried to go back to work very soon, a week after actually, too soon. And I tried to continue to lead contract negotiations, help select a new superintendent, and I'm very happy to report that I think we worked out really well for both in the end, but the journey was not pretty. I lost it and I unraveled several times. And as the mayor can attest, it happened in his office once. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Let's just say there were some elevated voices. There may have been some hand pounding on chairs, and it was wasn't my best. As embarrassing as that was, and how ashamed I was for losing it, I share this for several reasons. One, the effects of trauma are real. Even when we know, even when we think that we have the tools, I remember thinking to myself, okay, I know what's happening here, and I tell my kids when they lose it, smell the candles, smell the roses, blow out the candles, right? Trying to get them to breathe. I'm trying to tell myself this, but it wasn't working. But it's because it's real. Two, we all mess up sometimes, and it's okay to admit it. We've got to try to make it right, and most importantly, to learn from it. And three, leadership is so hard, and the conditions we work under are so stressful at times. And I am not the only one to experience loss, traumatic events, or painful experience. It's life. Which is why when things get tough, difficult, uncomfortable, when you are angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, get emotional, or having a hard day, a hard time, remember our students do too. Our teachers and staff do too. And you are not alone. And most importantly, there is something that we can do about it. For our students to learn about Sell Well, we need to learn about it and practice the tools ourselves. So many of the conflicts we encounter could be resolved if we just talk to each other. De-escalate, take a deep breath, talk to each other, and try to remember and find our common shared values and interests. Just take some time to slow down. To be kind to ourselves and learn how to be more empathetic, kind, and have compassion for each other. Because our nation is hurting. People across the world are hurting, and the healing has to start with us, individually and collectively. So that's what I wanted to share this morning. I am so hopeful about this school year, about our collaboration. We absolutely need all hands on deck in our classrooms, in our schools, and even at the State House and the White House. And while we are working to lift all boats, we need to look out for each other and remember to work on ourselves too. Because there will always be storms ahead, but please know that we at the BTU are rowing right beside you. And that in this union, we do believe that everyone is welcome here. No human is illegal. Black lives matter. Asians are not a minority myth. Climate change is real. Love is love. Public education is a right, not a privilege. And kindness is everything. So, thank you. I just truly want to wish everyone a wonderful school year, and just remember when times get tough that we've got to have each other's back. And at this point, it is my incredible honor and privilege to introduce an incredible young person that I had the privilege to spend many, 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 many hours with, 12 hours straight on some days, as we worked together on the superintendent search committee. And he's just an inspiration to me, and I couldn't be more proud to introduce Elvis Rosario from Snowden.
Good morning, school leaders, teachers, and central office team members. It is with great joy that I welcome you all to this year's August Leadership Institute. My name is Elvis Rodriguez, and I am a Boston Student Advisory Council. I am a rising senior at Snowden International High School and served on the BSAC leadership team. I was fortunate in my role to serve as the alternate student representative on the school committee and as the first student member to serve on the superintendent search committee. It is important to me that the same way I had opportunities to have an impact in Boston Public School, that other students are engaged and have an impact in Boston Public School in their own learning as well. The reason why we are all gathered here is to continue improving, building upon our promises to the young people of Boston, to adequately educate and prepare them for the promising and bright future. I am confident that we have the right leaders to move us forward. It is with great honor that I stand before you today and introduce our fearless Boston Public School leader. She is an impeccable mentor to me and many others. I admire her drive and benefit from the example. I spent the summer shadowing her. What stands out to me is how she enters every room with a smile and always leads with yes. She inspires me, and I know she will continue to inspire others. I look forward to the great things she will do with Boston Public Schools during her superintendency. Please join me in welcoming our fearless hockey player, Boston Public School Superintendent Brenda Caselius.
I'm really not sure how I follow all these wonderful speeches and just incredible, incredible people and fearless advocates for our children and servants for all of you. Good morning. I have been waiting for this moment to meet all of you, and I have had the opportunity to greet some of you as you arrived this morning, and I just thank you so much for coming this morning and being here with us, those up in the balcony as well as those right here. We are gathered with central office staff as well as some of our school leaders and some teachers here with us as well, so thank you again. I want to thank the mayor for coming and speaking and inspiring us and giving us a challenge to meet the needs of all of our students this year. And Jessica, for your courage and for your incredible, inspiring words. Just thank you so much. I'm so moved by that and for the fight that you have for our children, for the adequate funding, and for the partnership that you and the BTU bring. So thank you. I want to thank the BPS Summer Band and teacher Chris Schroeder. Was he amazing? And was the band just firing us up this morning? A true example of how important arts education is to children's education. I want to thank Tony Beatrice and for the beautiful art and the Paramount for hosting us today. And I also want to thank the ALI team for their incredible, incredible organizational skills to get this all together. So if you're on the ALI team, would you please just stand for a moment for us all to thank you? If you helped out in any way, shape, or form, look at all these people standing. What a team. I'm so excited for this school year, you just don't know. I've been anxiously waiting to meet all of you, and I will be visiting all of your schools within the first 100 days. Yes, all 125 of your schools. I will be out there visiting in the first 100 days. It may kill me, but I'm going to do it. But I first want to start with a personal story. I want to introduce you to Peanuts. She's a 10-year-old girl who lives with her single mother and her sister. She sleeps in a twin bed with her sister. Her mother's on welfare and food stamps. She lives in public housing. Her father is absent, but not uninvolved. She's seen here selling flowers on the street corner to help earn money for her family. She also sold buckets of flowers in bars and in nightclubs until she was a teenager. What do you think is her future? Is she like some of the students that you might know? You might think she has a limited future, given the statistics about children who grow up in poverty, but her future is bright. Not only was she resilient, she thrived. Why? Because even though she grew up in poverty, she never had a poverty of love. She had adults who had high expectations of her, especially her father, who did not live with her most of her childhood, but she knew he loved her and expected her to be somebody. She also had adults and programs that supported her, not just her family, but people outside of her family. She went to Head Start. She was a Head Start baby. She had a bookmobile that came into the neighborhood 2 times a week. She had a park and rec center adults who just down the block where she was embraced and everybody looked out for Peanuts. She always played on the boys' sports teams. She's quite the tomboy. She went to summer camp every summer for 2 weeks until she was 15, and then she became a counselor in training and a junior counselor. She learned the value of money and hard work at an early age. She and her sister were given blue savings books once they were part of a junior achievement program. She went to good schools and had great teachers, especially her kindergarten teacher and her 12th grade anatomy and physiology teacher who believed in her. Two critical teachers serving as supportive bookends at the beginning and at the end of her schooling who helped her get ready both academically and personally, launching her into a foreign world. She earned a full-ride scholarship to a prestigious private college in a small rural town in Minnesota. Early in her first term, she was called a racial slur and was followed by 2 boys. That really scared her. So she gave up her full-ride scholarship and enrolled at a large public university, where she thrived until her senior year. She was pregnant. She had a choice to make. She could go on welfare and quit college and be a statistic like her father said she was going to be, but she didn't. She continued to take classes through her pregnancy until she couldn't. She took the summer off, then re-enrolled in the fall, and finished with her degree. She was determined to be somebody. She struggled in those early years, single mother, mom on welfare, on WIC, but she didn't give up. For nearly 10 years, during the time she went to school, she earned her degrees, her teaching license, and several years later, she earned her master's in administration and became a principal like all of you. She bought her first house for her son so he could go to schools, good schools, and not live in the projects like she did. Eventually, she met a good man. She got married, had 2 more children, and became a school leader, a district leader, and went back to school and earned her doctorate. She became superintendent and then one day unexpectedly got a call to be commissioner of education. She declined at first, but then she remembered. She remembered all the programs and all the adults that helped her. Maybe she could help others like her. She was so lucky. And she thought, it just shouldn't be about luck. She thought all children deserve a hand up. All children deserve a hand up out of poverty and a safety net when they are launched into the world. So she said yes. She became the first African American commissioner of education for the state of Minnesota. She proudly held that job for 8 years, serving the children and families of Minnesota because she wanted to pay it forward, like so many had paid it forward and done for her. Now she's looking for that next opportunity. The next opportunity that she's learned from her personal experiences and her professional experiences, from a paraprofessional working with special ed students who are EI, to Commissioner of Education. Putting all of that together to help work to end child poverty, to create learning environments that are excellent, that are equitable, and where children have a love and a love for learning, and thrive in their learning environments. That led her to Boston. And I'm excited to meet all of you today to begin this journey, and so humbled and honored to be your next superintendent. And I just want to thank every single one of you that I met and that I were going to meet for such a warm welcome to Boston. How about that picture of me with my nappy head? So I wanted to share with you some of the core values that I'm entering into Boston with. They're things that I learned from all of you. They are ideas that I got from research when I was interviewing, They are things that I discerned from the questions I was asked, the personal one-on-one conversations I've had with you, and you see these values in the buttons that you selected as you came in. Now, someone asked me, these are so beautiful, can I have all of them? Yes. You can go back and get as many buttons as you want, and we can actually order them for you for your schools as well. So if you want more of these, we want to see these bright, beautiful colors everywhere, and they're significant in their rainbow to show that we are accepting of everybody and our beautiful diversity. They are, I'm going to start with the ones and tell you the story a little bit. So I was introducing these. How many of you were at the first principal gathering and reception were able to make it down? I know not everybody was able to make it down. And then central office folks, I went and visited with them on different floors. And I came in and I said, there are 3 values that I'm coming in with that I've really discerned. And those were inclusion, collaboration, and equity. And as I listened more, I listened and heard people talking about a unity and a shared, unified agenda and really working together and working across sector. So I added, oh, I'm sorry, I told the story wrong. So make mistakes and move on, right? Because it was actually Rachel Scarrett. Where is she? Raise your hand. Yes, Rachel back there, who added unity, but now I ruined my story. So as I got to know all of you, and what I sensed was just this kind of value and need for a little bit of joy. And so I added joy to the 3 that I came in with, which was inclusion, collaboration, and equity. So I added joy, and I could just see the happiness come on faces. So I was talking to the principals, and they were talking, and I was talking to them about these 4 values. And Rachel raised her hand and said, you know, if you add unity, you'll have juice. So if you haven't noticed yet, as you look at these, look at the first letter, they spell juice. And so, who's got the juice? I'm asking. Where's my team? Help me out. So we've been going around saying, are you bringing the joy? Are you focusing on equity? Are you including everybody? Are you collaborating across? Are you doing it in a way where we're building unity? And of course, are you bringing the joy? And I also came in then with 5 key goals. And these are what I shared with the search committee. But we'll be entering into strategic planning, and you all will have a chance to tell me what you believe are your goals. The community will have a chance to talk about goals, and we'll settle on some. But I thought it was really important for people to know what the frame was that I was coming with and the things that are important to me, so that you know more about me, not only my personal story, but what my hopes and dreams are for Boston Public Schools based on what I've learned from all of you and what I've learned during the past 3 months of engagement that I've been transitioning. One is we need an all hands on deck approach. We cannot do this work alone. And we must focus on those factors outside of school as well as those in school. Otherwise, we just keep doing the same things over, and we're not really getting at the root of the problem, which is poverty and disenfranchisement and inequitable opportunities for children. We have to change that, and I was so glad to hear the mayor come and commit all of his resources to our children, our families, and our communities of Boston. Absolutely deserved a standing ovation. Second is to raise the bar and close gaps. We must increase rigor and the expectation for our students. They can do so much more than we're expecting of them, and we're going to be demanding more of them. And I'll be working with you to do that. We want to be one of the first in the nation to really significantly close gaps. Districts all over this country are struggling with this problem, and I believe if we take a holistic approach to children, we will be able to close those opportunity gaps for our children and close the achievement gaps that we see as an outcome because they haven't had access or opportunity. Something as simple as eliminating fees to changing our graduation requirements to increasing opportunities for high access to high quality schools that I know all of you are committed to creating and having for our children in every single neighborhood. Fourth, we need to have students ready so we don't have another valedictorian series. Now here's one thing about the valedictorian series. They followed a handful of kids, but they didn't follow all of our kids. There are so many of our kids who are successful, and I know the good work that you do to launch our students, but we don't want anyone falling through the cracks. We want to make sure when they leave us, they're prepared, they know how to navigate, and they have the perseverance to be able to succeed and move forward. Fifth, and this is my favorite, is, well, all of them are my favorite, but I really want us to become one of the 10 best places to work in Boston. I believe that if we have happy people and they love where they work and they feel good about where they work and they get joy, they find joy and they feel like they contribute and they feel like they're supported and they have the resources to do what it is they need to do to meet their goals and have success, then children will be successful. We will feel like a family. I want us to feel like a family because when I went and visited 44 schools in Minnesota, the one that were 4- and 5-time reward schools in our state, the one thing that teachers told me and school leaders told me as I visited, hands down, without question, when I went, the first thing they said is we feel like a family. And family doesn't let each other down. Ohana, no one gets left behind when you feel like a family. And so that's built on those core values and also the core goals that I'm coming in with. Certainly when we do strategic planning over the next several months, those will shift and change and include all of your voice. I'd like to move to introducing the executive team and talk a little bit about the choices that I've made after much consultation the past 3 months with many of you, as well as the community and the school committee about how to restructure the district offices to better support principals. The first was a compression. So I really felt as though school leaders needed to know who was responsible for getting them what they need. And then they needed to be closer to me, the person making those decisions. And so I did away with the structures that we had, and I created one reporting structure for you. That is the school superintendents, and then me. I get back to everybody within 24 hours. If you're a school leader or a central office leader, tell me it's urgent, I will step out, and I will call you within an hour, the minute I get it, and I'm able to call you. So you know I'm accessible to you. If you need anything, let me know. My team will be also having a very high expectation. Actually, it's easier to get me on text, so you can text at that number as well. It is a personal cell phone number. My team also will be available and will also be highly responsive because that's my expectation. They've already been told that. They know that too, and I know that they already are. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce the team. So I'm going to start with the elementary school superintendents. Some of you may recognize I was intentional in looking through and trying to meet some of the principals, and I was intentional in bringing fresh principals to the leadership team so that we could have a fresh voice of folks who were not like me, you know, many, many years out of being a school leader to having now some folks who have just left the school principalship. So they'll be there sharing with us your stories, and we'll know that the experience is very recent. So Mary Driscoll, and if you all could stand up, that would be great. Mary Driscoll, Al Taylor, Grace Y, Andrea Zayas, Ana Tavares, and Marjorie Soto. I just got to say, I think somebody's butt calling me. Or maybe, let's see, I'll call back. Let's see who it is. Who is it? Oh, nobody wants to admit that. My secondary superintendents, Our Lindsay McIntyre, Principal of the Year. Tommy Welsh. And Elliot Brueggemann. You'll all get to know Ellie a little bit better. She was assistant commissioner with me in Minnesota and has a lot of experience in EL, as well as special education and career pathway work, and works with the consulates and a lot of our teacher equity work that we did. So she brings a lot of experience. I hope that you'll welcome her. Then also I want to introduce the folks you already know, many as well, from the superintendent's office. But first, before I do that, I want to thank Tess, Patty, Liz, and Dana, who are our support team in the superintendent's office. I can't say enough about Tess Atkinson, and when I first became superintendent, she was right there helping me with all of the requests that I was getting for my time. It was a lot, and she really helped me feel comfortable putting up student artwork in my office. And then I want to introduce Dave Murphy, who will be Chief of Staff, Monica Roberts, who is our Chief Engagement Officer, and Rob Consalvo. Also 3 individuals who were just solid rocks for me. There's also somebody hiding over here to the left who will be coming in and out, who was my Chief of Staff and my right hand for 8 years, as well as Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Education. She can't join us permanently at this time, but she is here helping through the transition with the strategic planning and hopefully some of the organizational health so that we can meet the goal of becoming the best place to work. And her name is Charlene Briner. I just want to introduce her because you'll see her around occasionally. Superstar team of the academic and student support. We have Colin Rose, whose picture isn't up here because he wasn't able to make the school board meeting when he came, so he is doing school equity work, as well as Corey Harris, who is new to us, and Charles Granson, and Sam DePina. And then I also want to introduce, and I know you know many of these faces, but in new roles, the district administrative team who will be working with our central office team to really support principals, and that is Emily Quazabash, John Hanlon, and Nate Cooter, who will be now our acting CFO because Eleanor is stepping down and going to spend a little bit more time with family. So I just want to spend a few minutes going through the org chart and why I made a little bit of decisions. You'll all get a copy of this. I apologize we didn't have it for you. We're still tweaking it, and it could still change based on feedback that we get from strategic plan and where we have to deploy resources and more effort. But you'll notice when I introduce folks, I introduce them as a team. And so I really do believe in this belief and value in collaboration and unity. And so they'll be working as teams around cross-functional effort to support schools. So the first group is the student school support team, and I introduced those folks. And so the chief of accountability, school turnaround, which we're going to call school support and improvement, because we believe in continuous improvement processes and everybody can improve. And then Chief of Academics, where Dr. Granson is going to be working on really curricular frameworks for us all, model frameworks, as well as pedagogical frameworks, collaborating with the BTU and teachers on that and school leaders, as well as central office content specialists, and then develop PD to support that around teacher practice and teacher leadership, and aligning that to our assessment systems as we work and try to find new and innovative ways to assess students. Chief of Student Support is Sam DePina. He's going to be working with athletics and our discipline to support all of you with our code of conduct and looking at some of those policies and the way that we do the work continue to bring down our numbers of students who are out of school so that we can maximize the instructional time and supports and out of school time for students so that it's productive and enriching time for children. And I want to just commend all of you as well. I've been looking at the suspension data, and over the past 2 years, our suspensions are considerably down. And so that's to the work you're doing. The work you're doing with the Selwell team, which Sam and Corey will share different aspects of the Selwell team to really push out the hub school model, to have a more coordinated and team-based approach within the schools too, which you'll learn more about as we move forward. So very excited about the work you're doing with restorative justice and the efforts you're making not to suspend students, especially in the early grades, but to work with families and work with coordinated supports with our Swellwell team in order to provide those services for children in school. Our school superintendent team has been organized so that we have bilingual and dual language on every team. We'll have in 3 quadrants of the city. They'll work in pairs to be able to support principals. And you'll learn more about that at our next meeting with principals, and the school superintendents will be meeting with all of you individually if they haven't already, to be able to explain how we're organized with the school superintendent team. Again, there's a compression, so there are no more academic superintendents. They are working directly with the school superintendents in a support model as a team-based approach, and the operational superintendents will now report to Sam in order to deploy a good start to school. So if there are things you're noticing in your back to school checklist that you need, Sam will be the person to contact, and he will work with the operational superintendents and John Hanlon and his team, as well as Emily and Nate, to get you what you need. The inclusion and equity team, these people all report directly to me because it's very important to me that we get EL right and we get special ed right. We're working on the inclusionary task force. We're working on structures around English language learners. I want to kind of transition and make sure that the office is also focused on support to EL teachers and general education teachers who teach our students who are learning English as a second language, so that everybody can feel successful working with our students who are not yet speaking English proficiently, because we have 42% of our students who are Latino, or who are Latino, and we have 32% who are EL. So very important that we are working with our families to ensure that they have what they need. Our superintendent's office is, of course, doing the strategic planning, coordinating all of the support services, doing community constituent services, community engagement. We have a huge 100-day plan to work with your parent councils, with your community, in order to get out and to listen and then develop this plan. You'll notice we'll move pretty quickly on getting a plan in place because it's not rocket science. We know the work that we have to do. Many of you have already written me letters or emails or been to convenings and told me what kind of work we have to do. So we'll try to just land on a piece of paper so we're all working from the same song sheet, and then we can move forward from there and get the budget passed so that we can get that properly resourced. And then the district admin team will continue to do their great work of supporting you, getting the schools ready, making sure that our facilities are going well. We'll be looking at a 10-year facility plan to be able to look at what's needed to support our strategic plan in regard to our facilities, any deferred maintenance. If there are things that you need, please let us know with that, as well as any school shifts, changes. All of that will be very clear, very transparent, no surprises. And then human capital, continue to diversify and recruit our teacher corps and our principal corps, working on a pipeline for our assistant principals. Let me just say, our assistant principals are our bench, and I want to be sure to make sure I spent 9 years of my career as an assistant principal, very proud of that work that I did, co-principaling with my principals. And that's how I see assistant principals, as the professionals they are, as co-principals, as working with you. They are a headmaster and a principal's first line of defense, hands down. And so we're going to be doing a lot more aspiring principal programs, working with a principal development and creating of that bench. And then, of course, our Chief Financial Officer, Eleanor, who has been incredibly giving of her gifts and talents the past 4 years. Hate to see her go. I've begged her like every day since then. But Nate will step into those shoes and be acting and do just a fantastic job for you. So that's the team, that's the organization, and I'd like to now invite Elvis up for a little fireside chat so you can get to know me and the vision and for Boston Public Schools a little bit more. And then we'll have, I think, opportunity for a little Q&A.
Minister.
What side do you want to be on, Elvis?
I'll be right here. You can have
Over
this
there?
side.
Okay.
Yep.
Look at these beautiful faces here.
So we're going to get started. We have a couple of questions that we were able to hear feedback from different sources of students, school leaders, teachers, and we were able to sum up all these ideas and all these summaries that we got from you all, and we were able to come down to a couple of questions, and we're just going to start with a simple question so you guys can get to know more of Dr. Caselius and what her vision is for BPS in general. So the first question is, what is your vision for Boston Public Schools over the next 5 years?
So Elvis, the vision that I have is that we all are getting it done for kids, and that we're able to provide equitable schools in all of our neighborhoods for our kids, and that parents will have Boston Public Schools be their first choice for their children, and that there'll be places where children thrive, where they are loved, and where they have every resource that they need to be successful. So they can get a full ride scholarship like you.
As you know, juice is your baby, basically, since you came.
You got the juice?
I don't. I'm missing a couple, but we'll figure it out later.
We'll get you a couple buttons.
Thank you.
But I know you're bringing the juice, Elvis.
But one question for you is, what does equity mean to you?
So equity to me means that every kid gets what they need. Every kid gets what they need. And that it's equitably distributed. I think bottom line is that every single kid gets what they need. And every single adult has what they need in order for the kids to get what they need.
Yeah. So, what should inclusion look like at Boston Public Schools?
What should inclusion look like?
Yeah.
Inclusion should look like, just so you know, I didn't see any of these questions. That's why I'm struggling. Otherwise, it would just flow out so nicely.
You're on the hot seat right now.
I'm in the hot seat. Not like the 4 90-minute video live stream interviews wasn't enough of a hot seat. So inclusion, it means that students are served within their least restrictive environment, and that but it has a multiple meaning, and the reason that I included in the juice is because, one, everybody needs to be included. Like I said, Ohana, nobody is left behind. I think that if we include everybody, then it's much more meaningful. You get a better result, and everybody feels valued, right. And part of the team. And so it means everybody being included at this level, teachers being included, students being included, or students with disabilities being included, students who are EL, even though we have EL services, they still need to be included. And so I'm finding that there are times in some of the ways that we're doing things that some students aren't included. They don't have access to after-school programs. They don't have access to high rigor. They don't have access to course taking. They don't have access to certain schools. And so I want to find a way for children to be included 100% of the time.
Thank you. As you know, throughout the summer, I've had the honor and privilege to shadow you over the summer. And one question that...
And you've had so many awesome ideas.
Thank you for that. But...
It's been great having him side by side.
But one of the questions that I put into this Q&A is, how will you prioritize schools that need support during your superintendency?
So we do some of that with the way that we fund schools, but I think that even that can be tweaked a little bit to provide opportunities to make sure that we're including our community as well. Right. So as I go around and I talk to different communities and I talk to different school leaders, I'm finding that still it's not enough. So when Jessica's up here talking about we need more, we really do need more. And so I hope that we'll be able to find more resources to be able to get those resources out to students. But the way that I prioritize those is who needs it the most, right? And that gets back to what I feel about equity. So who are our most vulnerable kids? What kind of programming do we have for them? What is it that we can do to ensure that students are getting an excellent and equitable education? I walked into a school the other day and I came out crying because the facility was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I just felt like, how is it we can have children in these schools? And these were children who were EI, our most vulnerable kids. And it absolutely crushed me. And so I made phone calls, and I was ready to move that program within 2 weeks. But I was counseled saying you can't move that program in 2 weeks before school. But I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that those children have what they need. But here's the one thing, let me just say, the facility was horrible, but the principal and the staff, they were bringing the joy.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed with the staff there and what they were doing with what they had.
So over the last couple of years in Boston Public Schools, and I know that throughout the questions that you got when we were doing the superintendent search, one of the questions was that there is a kind of shift on where central office stands and where schools and school leaders stand. And one of these questions is, how can school leaders collaborate with central office to get students the support they need to be successful? And the thing is, this is vice versa.
Yeah.
So school leaders are supporting central office, but how can central office support school leaders as well while they're doing the groundwork in the schools?
Really good question. One is we're gathered here now to build relationships and to begin this work of collaboration. I know a lot of it already is happening, so I'm not saying we're beginning it like it's never happened before. But the way that I've structured with teams and cross-functional teams is hopefully how all of you will see that structure, and it'll be worth some of this disruption at the beginning so that we can better support our schools, and so central office is better supporting. Part of that is responsiveness and making sure that we're getting back to schools when they say they need something. Part of that is being able to be very clear on what it is that's our mission and what it is our charge, and having coherence around that, and having everybody's voice in the development of those plans, so when we're actually executing it, everybody's participating because they know it's of value. They know it's important. It's important to our shared agenda and our shared mission and goal. And so I think if everybody knows and respects each other's work and is responsive to one another, then we will be able to move rather quickly. I've been able to see schools improve within 2 years. I've been able to see central office be reorganized to support schools where school leaders will just take a collective breath and go, wow, this feels different. And that's what I'm hoping for our organization, that we will all put ourselves in each other's shoes and support one another.
Great. To end it off and wrap it up, as you all know, I'm part of the Boston Student Advisory Council. And over the years, we have been tasked with a challenge in getting 100% representation from every high school throughout Boston Public Schools. This has been a challenge because as students, we are not able to go out and recruit from other schools. But we want to bring not just school leaders, not just students, but the whole district on getting 100% representation from Boston Public Schools. So now I'm going to leave it to you guys and the superintendent on how can we, as a district, get Boston Student Advisory Council representatives, from every high school. It is a challenge that we face, but it's a challenge that we should all face because we are the future of Boston Public Schools. And we are the teachers who are going to come back here, and we're going to be the principals who are going to be sitting in your...
Are you going to be a teacher, Elvis?
No.
I'm working on him. I'm working on him.
Oh, why are you going to put me in this one?
You teed it right up for me, Elvis. You teed it right up for me. I would like to have this be one of the first things we do, high school principals, is to get 2 representatives, 1 and 1 alternate, to BSAC. Can we make that commitment to the kids, to Elvis and to Evelyn? High school principals? Yes. And I will do my part to work with Monica, because we're working with Lyft to try to figure out transportation if they don't have an MBT. I think everybody's got the free
MBT pass,
yeah.
yes.
So transportation shouldn't be a barrier, but if there's some barrier why you can't get students there, let me know, and I would love to work with you on trying to do that, because if they can get every single member,
yes,
then they would be in a position to then ask for a vote on the board, and I told them I would support that.
Yep.
So thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elvis.
Sam, always a pleasure. Always.